Hello everyone, this is Ayush Kataria and welcome to my YouTube channel AK Talk Sport. Today we are going to be previewing the quarterfinal of the 2020 Euros starting from tonight. Before we get into the content of the channel, I really need to thank you guys for the overwhelming support you have shown to the launch of the channel. To all of you who have liked, shared, subscribed and commented, I really appreciate it. For anyone who has missed the introduction video, I suggest you check it out in case you're wondering what my plan for the channels are. So yeah, before getting into the quarterfinals, I would like to discuss what has already happened in the tournament because it is worth talking about it. What a tournament it has been so far! By far the best international tournament that I have seen in my time watching football. The group stages were dramatic enough, especially the last days, round of 16. Oh my God, it has been so amazing to watch drama after drama, exciting games after exciting games. You had that incredible day where both the games against between France and Switzerland and Spain and Croatia went into the extra time. Then you had Ukraine coming back and scoring a 121st minute winner. So yeah, what a tournament it has been. But it has thrown its strain of surprises. First, Netherlands were knocked out by Czech Republic. Then we saw France, Germany, Portugal, all three of them being knocked out. They were in the supposed group of death in the tournament, but now none of them are in the tournament going into the last eight. Has it really been a surprise? No, I don't think so. It has been a surprise. The Netherlands under Frank de Boer after Ronald Koeman left, they're actually doing very well after under Ronald Koeman, despite not qualifying for the 2018 World Cup and 2016 Euros. They had a very good revival. They reached the Nation League's final. Whatever Frank de Boer, they just were terrible all through the year. And this was like they had a very good group stage, but they played in Amsterdam, and we'll say they had favorable fixtures, but they were not as easy as Ukraine and Austria have shown. But it was always a disaster waiting to happen, and it just took that one moment of foolishness from Matthew de Ligt, which just threw their plans into the woods. Uh, Portugal, I really felt they were the defending champions. They and in 2021, like this year, they really had a much better score than they had in 2016 when they won the tournament, but somehow they kept the same tactics that they did in 2016, which simply did not work for them because they had a much better squad this time. They did not need to be so pragmatic. I really don't understand why they did not use their so much attacking quality they have. Ronaldo, Bruno, João Felix, Diego Jota. Like they did not have even one good game in the tournament. Yeah, they won their first game against Hungary 3-0, but they were struggling for 80 minutes in that game. That they just had a moment of a very good move. Last 10 minutes, that was like the only good spark in the tournament. So when they actually came to playing Belgium, Belgium was a much informed team. The team playing much better. So I was not shocked. Germany pre-tournament, I had seen a lot of people had them as their favorites, and again, that is something I've never really agreed with. It is not anything to do with player quality. Obviously, player quality wise, in all areas of the pitch, they are so well covered. But somehow under Joachim Low, since the 2018 World Cup, they have been very bad. And I was very surprised that Joachim Low got this tournament and he was not sacked earlier. They were knocked out in the group stage of the World Cup, which for a squad of their quality was simply not acceptable. Uh, then both the Nation Leagues 2019 and 2021, both of them they did have failed to reach the semi-finals. Not long ago, they were beaten 6-0 by Spain. In a few months ago, they were beaten 1-0 by North Macedonia in a World Cup qualifier at home. So I was not expecting much from them in the tournament, and them getting knocked out in the round of 16 was not really a surprise. But I do feel that it's not a major source of worry. Yeah, so Joachim Low is leaving now. Look, we are not disrespecting Low here. He's a World Cup winner. He needs to be respected. But everybody has their expiry date in sport when they're past it, and Joachim Low was obviously past it. So under Hansi Flick, with the group of players they have, I think Germany will be forced to reckon with in future tournaments. Yeah, France, yeah, they are the only shock of what has happened. I mean, they are the world champions. They are the pre-tournament favorites. Look at the amount of quality they have in their squad, the depth they have. You really, yeah, you obviously don't win in sport every time, and it will be unfair for them to win every tournament. They were in the final in 2016. They won the 2018 World Cup, but you really didn't expect them to be knocked out by Switzerland, especially after taking a 3-1 lead, although they were struggling for a long period of time in the game. For me, France, yeah, every team has a bad day, and they just had a bad day. But somehow, even this tournament, they were never really impressive, and it is just something I think Didier Deschamps just changed something that was working. He recalled Karim Benzema. Karim Benzema individually, yeah, he was very good. He scored twice against Portugal. He scored twice against Switzerland. But as a team, they were not really good. They just won one match. That was against Germany, and that was a 1-0 win with an own goal. So their attacking cohesion wasn't quite into it. But again, with France, I wouldn't worry too much. Yeah, obviously this is a disappointment. This was a major tournament, but it is a very very good team. So I will be not surprised if they bounce back very strongly from it in the World Cup qualifiers, Nation Leagues, and the Qatar World Cup next year. So yeah, let's now get into the quarterfinals. Spain versus Switzerland, the winners of that dramatic Monday two games. Both games had the same pattern. Spain beat Croatia, Switzerland, as we discussed, beat France. Both the games had a one in 90 minutes. That is, the team that took the lead went 3-1 down and then came 3-all. But they had a different winner in Spain. Despite losing the lead, managed to win in extra time. Meanwhile, Switzerland, they made it 3-all and then they took the game to penalties and managed to win. So yeah, you'll expect Spain to be favorites. That is a very obvious thing to expect, especially on name. But now tell me, if Switzerland can beat France, why can't they beat Spain? Spain have had a very interesting tournament. Like if you'll remember, the first two games, they scored one goal, and it just looked like you saw around the squad and felt like where are the goals going to come from, and it just looked like they couldn't score. But in the two games after that, that is the game against Croatia in the round of 16 and the match against Slovakia in the group stage, the last game, they've scored 10 goals. It has been like they've looked very, very strong in attack in those two games. Uh, but their strength lies in midfield. Sergio Busquets, obviously, probably one of the greatest holding midfielders of our generation. Koke, he has been excellent. He remains excellent. And but the main star in the midfield has been 18-year-old Pedri. That guy probably is the best teenager in world football right now. He's obviously there in contention. He looks so composed on the ball. He's just 18. He has been brilliant for Spain in the tournament, and he was very good for Barcelona in the season that went by. Also, so yeah, that is their strength. In attack, yeah, they you still don't feel that confident looking at the options they have. Those names, at least on paper, look very underwhelming. Luis Enrique, he has stuck by Alvaro Morata up front. He has changed everything around him, but not him. Morata has been criticized. Enrique has been criticized for keeping him around. But probably Morata scored a very, very important goal against Croatia in extra time that gave them the lead. It was a very good finish. You'll probably say he has repaid their faith in his manager. Uh, Spain and Switzerland, they played each other twice very recently in the Nations League. One game was won by Spain, one was a draw. So it's and the game that Spain won was just a 1-0. So there's not been a lot between them, and Switzerland will fancy their chances. Switzerland, the last international meeting, you'll remember Spain won that 2010 World Cup, but Switzerland beat them 1-0 in the opening game of the tournament. So they do have that capability in being the dark horses here. Next up, we probably have the match of the uh, quarterfinals: Belgium versus Italy. There have been two teams have looked so good so far in the tournament. Italy have probably one. Some people just underrated them before coming into a tournament. Now people call them dark horses. They weren't dark horses. I think just people just didn't pay enough attention to them. Coming into the tournament, they had won 10 games in a row. They had not conceded a goal in them. I think they have incredible stability under Roberto Mancini after the disappointment of not making it to the World Cup in 2018. They have looked very very solid. So yeah, and they showed that in the tournament. The group stage they were completely dominant. Austria gave them a fight, but again, Italy managed to win 2-0 in extra time. Again, they have just conceded one goal in the tournament so far, and that was after they were 2-0 up in extra time. They were tired, and it was a very freakish goal, like a header from Austria that just got inside from a very weird angle. Apart from that, they look so solid. Their defense and midfield, it is amazing. Like they have such, yeah, obviously Cellini, Bonucci, and their wing backs, Spinazzola. They have been changing the right wing back because mainly Florenzi has been injured. Donnarumma in front of the post. And the midfield is absolutely remarkable, and they're spoiled for choices. Jorginho has again one more guy who has suffered a lot of criticism in Premier League, but he is a Champions League winner, and he has just taken that form from the final of the Champions League to for Italy. He has been the guy Mancini has built around, and around him, Locatelli, Verratti, Barella, whoever has played, has looked very, very impressive, and it's a very technical midfield, a very hard-working midfield, and yeah, it lacks goals in them, but otherwise, it's almost a complete midfield. Uh, Although they attack Italy, they have some proven Serie A performers, but they have been a bit hot and cold. It showed against Austria, where all three of them, Insigne, Immobile, and Berardi, have been the starters. All three of them had a okayish game, and they struggled to score. So yeah, that is probably a weakness Belgium will look to exploit. For Belgium, their attack is just what stands out. That front three of Romelu Lukaku, Eden Hazard, and Kevin De Bruyne. It is probably the best front three in international football. You always get these big names front three in international football, but rarely do they perform to the level you expect them to. But this front three always had. They did it in the 2018 World Cup, and they have so far. Belgium are very very fun to watch. They were probably the most entertaining to watch in the Russia World Cup, and they have been so far. Although they have major injury worries, both Hazard and Kevin De Bruyne Lim went off injured in that victory over Portugal, and there are major doubts. We don't have any confirmation on whether they are available or not, but it looked unlikely. So if those two are not able to play, it obviously hurts Belgium's chances by quite a lot. Although Lukaku, he will probably fancy himself to probably win the game. He has been absolutely incredible in this tournament. Not just the goals he has scored, his centre forward play has been exceptional. Probably his form at Inter Milan has carried on into the tournament, like, and his holder play, his link up, his pace, and his finishing, like, it's all been there. So Italy, they know Lukaku. Most of the defenders have been playing against him, so they know him well from the Serie A. But they still are going to have a very very tough challenge against them. So yeah, it's about whether it against Belgium's tremendous attack and Italy's very solid defense. So yeah, it's going to be a very very interesting game. We'll see what happens. The next game is Denmark versus Czech Republic. I don't know how many people expected these two guys to be on the verge of a semi-final, but yeah, at least one of them is going to be in a semi-final, and yeah, it has been an incredible story. Czech Republic obviously produced that big upset against Netherlands. They finished third in their group, but yeah, they have made it. Uh, Patrick Schick has been in great form against Netherlands. They were the better side all through the game, and Denmark will be aware of that. Oh, and Denmark, what a story it has been. After that tragedy of that first game, you know what happened with Christian Eriksen. And for any human seeing someone fighting for their life in such dramatic fashion in front of them, that is a traumatic experience. They were made to play hours after that, and they obviously lost to Finland and they lost to Belgium despite a very good first half, but they crumbled in the second half. They produced an absolutely incredible performance against Russia. They beat them 4-1. They managed to finish second. They were exception in that game. Andres Christensen, I'm very happy for him as a Chelsea fan. He scored absolute rocket of a goal. That was probably is still my whatever has happened after that. Still my movement of the tournament. Just the context behind what Denmark had been through, them playing in Copenhagen and the same stadium, same fans were there, then and to take them to the knockout stages. And then against Wales, they smashed them 4-0. Casper Dolger, forgotten man, he was hyped up a lot in between, but since and then gone off the radar. But two goals and a 4-0 victory against Wales. That was an exceptional performance. Denmark, you have to say they are probably favorites. They are looking very very good, but yeah, it's a very like the margins are very less in this game, and like it probably could turn out to be a very fun game because probably they don't have the big names of a top country, but I won't be surprised if this is a very entertaining game, an end-to-end game, and it will be interesting to see who wins this. And lastly, for the first time this tournament, England move out of the Wembley Stadium and they'll go to Rome to face Ukraine. England, you probably have to say it is their tournament to lose now. They did the hard part of the knockouts, which was to knock Germany out. They have managed to do that, obviously, and now they have to play Ukraine, and they're massive favorite for this game. Uh, Despite Gareth Southgate's selections have been criticized, but somehow he finds himself in the quarterfinal of the Euros. He obviously got them to the semis of the 2018 World Cup, and now they face Ukraine, and then they face the winner of the Denmark and Czech Republic game. And you, at least on paper, will fancy them to beat them. Of course, this tournament has shown that it's not being played on paper. There have been shocks, and you won't be surprised if any of it happens in this game. But and England itself, they lost to Iceland in 2016, so they need to really, really, really ensure there's no complacency. They have learned a very bitter experience, and they need to get past these two games. And then if you expect them to beat these two games, they are massive favorite. They will be in the final. The final is at the Wembley Stadium, and the Wembley Stadium is going to be 75% full. You can probably imagine for a large crowd after probably one on a football stadium after 18 months to experience an absolutely amazing atmosphere, and it will be either whoever they face if they reach the final. Obviously, it's not really going to be a team that is very very miles ahead of them in quality. Yeah, uh, the likes of Belgium, Spain, and Italy can give them very tough fights, but it will be a 50-50 battle. But of course, yeah, we should not get ahead of ourselves. They have a job to do against Ukraine, um, and England football history suggests that they need to be very careful. I wouldn't I wouldn't take this as a game that they have already won. I won't be surprised if Ukraine have looked very very impressive in this tournament so far. The first game against Netherlands, they were very unlucky to lose. They came from 2-0 down. They could have been in the lead before even conceding one goal. It was an end-to-end game. Both teams are playing great football. Shevchenko, first, he is obviously the greatest ever player. Now he is the first manager to take them to a quarterfinal of a major event, and they play some very very high octane football, entertaining football. England will have a tough job to deal with, so they need to be careful. But if they can win this, it's the trophy is within their sights. If they get the job done in Rome, they can come back to London and probably lift the trophy in front of their home crowd. So yeah, that's about it for today. I would have ideally wanted to do all quarterfinal previews separately, or at least one for each day. But due to the time crunch, as I've just launched this channel, I had to do this in one go, and also include the round of 16 part because I wanted to talk about it. So yeah, probably semifinals. I'll see you. I'll probably do a review of the quarterfinals, and then hopefully do an individual episode for each semifinal, and hopefully something soon on the Copa America too. So please like, share, subscribe, uh, tell about it to your friends, family, whoever interested in football. Other sports fans, there'll be a lot of content for you too soon. So yeah, bye bye. Thank you for watching.